The grand Whitaker mansion stood silent that morning, a silence deeper than wealth could ever fill. Ava Whitaker, the 7-year-old daughter of one of the richest men in the city, sat by the window, watching the world outside, but saying nothing. She never did. She had never spoken a word since birth. Not a laugh, not a cry, not even a whisper. Doctors called it psychological silence. Her body was fine, her voice was fine, but her world was locked. Every expert money could buy had tried. Therapists, speech doctors, even neurologists flown in from Switzerland, all failed. Her father, Charles Whitaker, could buy the world, but not a single word from his daughter's lips, until one afternoon, something impossible happened. A poor black boy named Noah, collecting recyclables near the mansion gate, would change everything, not with money, not with therapy, but with something the Whitakers had forgotten long ago: human warmth. That day, the richest silence in the city was about to be broken, and it would shock the entire world. Charles Whitaker wasn't just a billionaire, he was the billionaire. Owner of Whitaker Holdings, a global investment empire. He lived in a glass palace that stretched across the hills of Malibu, where servants whispered, chefs cooked silently, and his daughter sat quietly by the window every single morning, staring at the sunrise she never described. Eva was everything money could dress: silk gowns, diamond hairpins, handmade dolls from Italy, but she carried an emptiness deeper than words could fill. She would look at her father sometimes with soft, searching eyes, as if begging for something he couldn't buy. Charles loved his daughter more than life itself, but his love came wrapped in money and meetings. He believed that if he just spent more, she'd finally speak. He flew her to private clinics. He hired world-famous neurologists. He even built an indoor play garden where birds sang all day, but Eva never answered. Then, one rainy afternoon, fate rolled in quietly from the street below the mansion. Outside the Golden Gates, a 15-year-old boy named Noah was pushing a broken shopping cart full of crushed cans and plastic bottles. His clothes were torn, his shoes mismatched, but his eyes carried something rare: hope. He wasn't stealing. He wasn't begging. He was just working, collecting recyclables so he and his little sister could eat that night. When he stopped near the mansion gate, he saw something strange: a small, pale face peeking through the iron bars. Ava, her blue eyes wide, her hand gripping the gate. She didn't speak, didn't wave, just watched him. For the first time, someone wasn't telling her what to do. Someone wasn't trying to fix her. He was just there. Noah smiled, a simple, genuine smile that crossed the barrier of wealth and silence. And in that moment, something inside Eva stirred, a flicker, a spark. She didn't know his name. He didn't know hers. But something had begun, something not even the world's best doctors could explain. Days passed. Every afternoon, Noah came by with his cart, humming softly as he collected bottles from the side of the street. And every afternoon, Eva appeared at the window or behind the mansion gate, watching, listening, silently waiting. At first, it was just eye contact. Then small gestures, Noah waving shyly, Eva tilting her head in curiosity. She never smiled before, but that day she did. A faint, trembling smile that only a lonely soul could give. The mansion staff noticed. Mrs. Linda, the housekeeper, whispered to another maid, "The girl's smiling now." Because of that boy? But when Charles Whitaker found out, he was furious. "How did a street boy get close to my daughter?" he shouted. "Security! Keep him away from this property." Guards were ordered to lock the gates tighter. But fate had other plans. That evening, while the storm rolled over the sea, Ava slipped out of her room barefoot, holding a small toy, a paper bird she had folded herself. She walked down the marble steps, through the garden, until she reached the iron gate. Outside, drenched from the rain, Noah was sitting under a streetlight, trying to cover his recyclables with plastic. Eva watched him shiver, and then, for the first time in her life, she moved toward someone on her own. Her tiny hands gripped the bars. She pushed the paper bird through. Noah looked up, surprised. "For me?" he asked gently, though he knew she wouldn't answer. She only nodded. Her lips trembled, but no sound came. Then Noah did something that none of the doctors, therapists, or teachers had ever done. He didn't ask her to speak. He didn't pressure her. He simply began to hum, a quiet, gentle tune his mother used to sing before she passed away. It was broken, imperfect, but warm. Eva froze, listening. Her eyes widened. She placed her hand over her heart and felt something move inside her chest, something she had never felt before. The next day, Noah wasn't there. The guards had chased him off. Eva waited by the window for hours. Nothing. No cart. No song. For the first time in her life, tears rolled down her cheeks. When Charles saw his daughter crying, he panicked. "Eva, what's wrong?" But she couldn't explain. She ran to her notebook and drew something instead, a little stick figure boy with a cart, and a paper bird in his hand. That night, Charles called security. "Find that boy," he ordered. "I don't care who he is. Just find him." They searched the streets until midnight. Finally, they found Noah near a trash yard, sitting by a fire barrel, holding the same paper bird. When the guards approached, he stood up nervously, ready to run. But the head guard said, "Mr. Whitaker wants to see you." Noah's hand shook. "Me? Why?" Minutes later, he was standing in the grand marble hallway of the Whitaker mansion, dripping wet, confused, surrounded by men in suits. And at the top of the stairs, Eva appeared, barefoot, holding another paper bird. The boy and the girl looked at each other again, two worlds colliding. Under crystal chandeliers, then something happened that no one could ever forget. Eva slowly walked down the stairs. 1 step, 2 steps, then 3. She stopped in front of Noah, and for a long silent moment, the entire mansion froze. And then she opened her mouth. Everyone leaned forward. The billionaire, the guards, the maids. Time stopped. Noah. Her voice was small, shaky, almost a whisper. But it was real. The boy gasped. The billionaire's knees went weak, and every maid in the room covered her mouth in shock. Charles fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. "Eva, you spoke." But Eva wasn't looking at him. She was still looking at Noah, smiling through tears. For a few seconds, the mansion stayed silent, only Eva's trembling voice echoing in the vast hall. Her father, Charles Whitaker, was frozen in disbelief. For 7 long years, he had heard nothing but silence from his daughter. And now her first word was not "Dad," but the name of a homeless boy. Doctors were rushed in that same night. Specialists, speech therapists, neurologists, all called to witness what had just happened. But no test, no scan, no therapy could explain it. "Mr. Whitaker," one of the doctors said softly, "whatever happened here wasn't medical. It was emotional." Charles looked at Noah, still standing quietly in his wet hoodie, clutching the paper bird. "What did you do to her?" Charles asked, not in anger this time, but in awe. Noah lowered his eyes. "Nothing, sir. I just sang to her, like my mama used to sing to me when I was scared." The room went still again. A billionaire's daughter, cured by a song from a homeless boy. Something money couldn't buy. But before the moment could settle, one of the mansion's investors, a sharp, arrogant man, whispered loud enough for others to hear, "This is ridiculous. You're letting a street kid into your house?" He probably manipulated the girl for money. The words hit Noah like a slap. He stepped back, shame flushing his face. But Eva, fragile, pale Eva, suddenly turned toward the man. For the first time, she spoke more than one word. "No," she said. Her voice cracked, but her eyes burned bright. "He's my friend." The entire hall fell silent again. Charles stood, his chest heaving with emotions too heavy to contain. He looked from his daughter to Noah, and something inside him shifted. The arrogance, the pride, the years of isolation. He took a deep breath and walked toward the boy. "Noah," he said quietly, "I spent millions trying to heal my daughter. But you did it with kindness." Tears gathered in his eyes as he extended a trembling hand. "You've given me back my child." Noah hesitated, then slowly shook his hand. His fingers were rough, calloused from life on the streets, but that touch carried more grace than any royal handshake. And then, in a moment that no one in that mansion would ever forget, Charles knelt before Noah, the billionaire. A man who had once looked down on everyone bowed his head to a homeless boy. Gasps filled the hall. Maids cried. Even the guards couldn't hide their awe. "From now on," Charles said, his voice breaking, "you will never live on the streets again." He turned to his daughter. "Ava, what do you say?" Ava looked at Noah, her eyes sparkling with innocence and gratitude. She took his hand and whispered one word that made every soul in the room tremble. "Brother." The boy's lips trembled. His throat tightened. He hadn't heard that word in years, not since his little sister died of hunger. When they had nothing left, no one spoke after that. Not the maids. Not the doctors. Not the billionaire, because sometimes miracles don't come from prayers or wealth. They come from hearts that still remember how to love when the world forgets. Weeks passed, but the memory of that night never faded. The mansion that was once filled with silence now echoed with laughter, music, and hope. Ava no longer hid behind walls. Every morning she would run through the rose garden, barefoot, chasing the sunlight with Noah by her side. Her voice grew stronger with each word, each song, each story she learned to tell. The doctors still called it a miracle. But Charles Whitaker knew the truth. It wasn't science. It was love. The billionaire who once thought everything could be bought had discovered something money could never touch: human connection. He didn't just give Noah a place to live. He gave him a family. He arranged tutors for the boy, got him enrolled in school, and even placed a small scholarship fund in his name, Noah Foundation. The plaque read, "For those who bring light into darkness." Soon, newspapers picked up the story. Homeless teen heals billionaire's daughter with a song. Social media erupted with millions of comments. Disbelief, hope, tears, inspiration. But Noah stayed humble. Every time a reporter tried to question him, he would just smile and say, "I didn't heal her. She healed me." Ava would stand beside him, holding the same paper bird she once gave him, now framed behind glass. A reminder of how one act of kindness changed two lives forever. As for Charles Whitaker, he changed more than anyone expected. The same man who once avoided the poor began funding shelters, schools, and therapy programs for underprivileged children. He often told people, "My daughter found her voice the day I finally listened to my own heart." Years later, at a charity event, Eva stood on stage, now a confident young woman, her voice clear, steady, and full of life. She began to sing the same gentle tune Noah once hummed under the rain. The audience stood still, some crying quietly. And when the song ended, she whispered into the microphone, "This song is for the boy who taught me how to speak. Not with words, but with kindness." The lights dimmed. The crowd rose in applause. And in that moment, every person watching realized something powerful. Sometimes, the poorest soul carries the richest heart. Sometimes, the smallest act of compassion can echo louder than any fortune. And sometimes, the miracle we wait for is already standing outside our gate. It doesn't take money to heal a broken heart, only love, kindness, and the courage to see beyond what divides us.